Let me ask you by show of hands, how many of you have ever listened to an economist speak who absolutely bored you to tears? This is good. Your expectations are extremely low. What I want to do for the next 47 minutes, I will be finished exactly at 1 o'clock, is to take you on a very quick tour of what's going on in the U.S. economy, global economy, these crazy financial markets, issues in a whole lot of different industries. We'll try to have some fun at the same time. This is, after all, the dismal science of economics. How'd you like to wake up every morning, go to work in the dismal science? Try to have some fun at the same time. Make sure that you, out by the registration table, pick up a copy of one of our books. On the one hand, The Economist Joke Book. We have some extra copies if you'd like to take 1 or 2 or 3 back to your office. I think that's probably okay as well. I've been writing a weekly newsletter now. We're up to 34 years. I'll make reference later as to how you can receive our weekly newsletter via email at no cost, compliments of Think Equity if you're interested in doing so. Let me have you ponder one thought, if I can, over the next 45 minutes or so. If a man speaks in the forest with no woman there to hear him, is he still wrong? Well, ponder that thought for the next little while. All right, what I want to do is kind of give you my view of the world, but also a consensus view of forecasting economists. I'm part of 3 national forecasting groups. You've heard of the Blue Chip Forecast. They do a monthly survey of 50 economists around the country, which I've been one for many years. USA Today does a quarterly survey of about 50 economists. In fact, on the flip side of the What Good is Business Week Anyway article is the latest USA Today survey of 50 economists around the country. And then a smaller forecasting group as well within what I call the crystal ball gazing community, the National Association for Business Economics. All 3 suggest the U.S. economy will return to positive growth in the 3rd quarter. Not impressive growth, not worth writing home about, but a return to positive, just barely positive GDP in the 3rd quarter of this year. Stronger performance in the 4th quarter, stronger performance as we go into 2010, 2011. We've had a lot of discussions about what got us into this mess. We started talking about problems in subprime mortgages 27 months ago. Global financial markets froze up the first time in August of 2007. Recessions, we talk about an economy in a recession. If all recessions were the same thing, it's like saying somebody is sick. You can be sick in a whole lot of different ways. The serious recessions before this one in the post-war period, 74-75 recession caused by a quadrupling of oil prices and how the domestic and global economy tried to deal with those pressures. Recession of the early 1980s, actually 2 recessions back-to-back, intentionally created by the Federal Reserve to help break the back of double-digit inflation. The recession we're currently in is a balance sheet recession. I think that's the best way to characterize it. Balance sheets of money center banks, investment banks, investors around the world, households in this country and around the world that got overextended in terms of debt. And this never-ending view that home prices would go higher and higher and higher, and all of the debt, all of the leverage that took place with that. It's easy, I think, to characterize where we are as we're going through this dismantling of this enormous financial house of cards that was constructed over the last 10 years. What we're going through, when you hear somebody make the point that the challenges to the U.S. and the global economy are as serious as any since the Great Depression, they are. It is a serious time, but again, most of the weakness is behind us. We expect growth to return in the 3rd quarter, at the latest, probably the 4th quarter of this year. As economists, we speculated much of last year as to when the official scorekeeper of the American economy would define the recession to have begun. There's a group called the National Bureau of Economic Research. They have what they call a business cycle dating committee of about 7 economists. You have to be like 95 to be one of these economists. They finally came out on December 1 of last year and said the recession officially started in December of 2007. We are now 17, 18 months into this recession. The 2 prior recessions, by way of comparison, the recession of the early 90s, 8 months in duration. The recession of 2001, 8 months in duration. We're at 17 or 18 months. This will be the longest and very likely the deepest recession in the post-war period. But the message is we will get through this. We will get through this. We will return to positive growth. The Treasury, the Fed, the FDIC keep throwing mud at the wall to see what will stick in terms of effective means of stimulus. We're trying to return to some level of normalcy in the flows of finance around the world. But we will get through this. Now, I make the case we do this every 10 years. Step back 20, 21, 22 years ago, October 1987. What do we have? The crash of 87. The Dow falls 22.3% in one day. The administration of Congress rush in, talk about the need for stimulus. The Federal Reserve rushes in and cuts its key interest rate 2 or 3 times immediately. National media says, we've been warning you. Here it is, the unfolding of the next Great Depression. Well, even in a serious bear market today, the Dow is 4.5 times as high as it was at that point. Step forward 10 years, 1997. We have the Asian financial crisis. Russia defaults on its debt. We have a collapse of high-profile hedge fund long-term capital management. Again, the administration of Congress rush in, talk about the need for stimulus. The Fed rushes in and cuts its key rate twice immediately. National media says, this time we got it right. The next Great Depression is about to unfold. Well, again, even in a serious bear market, the Dow is higher than it was at that point. The darkest days are behind us. We will return to positive growth by the third quarter, at latest fourth quarter of 2009. When you're looking for signs of life in the economy, you don't find it to any great extent right now in the employment data. That's going to be the case for some time to come. U.S. employment fell 3.1 million jobs in 2008. 2008 was the worst year for American employment since 1945. We lost an additional 2.6 million jobs in the first 4 months of this year. But as we go further through the year, job losses on a monthly basis will be still extraordinarily painful, but likely to be less than they were the month before. We lost 539,000 jobs in April. Horrible number, but the best number, if you will, since October of last year. And the data will continue to be less painful as we go through the end of the year and hopefully move towards about zero in terms of job losses very, very late this year. In terms of unemployment, we are currently at 8.9% nationwide. That is the highest U.S. unemployment rate in 25 years. That rate will approach 10% in the latter part of this year, early next year, and stay higher than we obviously would like it to be for some time to come before it begins a modest but a continual decline, which is expected 2010, 11, 12. The economy that we are part of, the economy our children, our grandchildren will become participants in, is one that demands and rewards education more than ever before. I'm an economist. I'm going to give you all kinds of numbers in 45 minutes. The next 2 numbers I give you are the most powerful numbers I will give you today. If your kids or grandkids need a reason to justify post-high school education, in this case college or university life, tell them this. Tell them that in 1980, the average college graduate in this country made 25% more than the average high school graduate. 1980, 25% more. That number today is 80% more. Key to financial success for many people in this country used to be affiliating with unions, but a key to financial success for many more people in the future is education. I mentioned kids and grandkids. I have 10 grandkids. I agree with some of you, a statement by Gore Vidal, who said, if I would have known grandkids were this great, I would have had them first. But there's a flip side to that that goes like this. I have seen the lights of Paris. I have walked the streets of Rome. But the greatest sight I've ever seen is the grandkids' tail lights driving home. If you're not there yet, that'll make some sense later on. For our young people, we traditionally gave them 2 options. One was to finish high school and get a job. One was to finish high school, go to a traditional 2-year or 4-year college or university. Well, the marketplace says, wait a minute, things are changing. The economy is evolving, becoming more technologically sophisticated. There is, of course, a third viable alternative, which is increasing relevance and value and rewards of applied technology education, or what we used to call vocational training. Think of some of the traditional blue-collar occupations in our economy, like working on an auto assembly line. The people on an auto assembly line who used to do the same routine or mundane tasks for 8 or 10 hours a day, many cases today, these people run the computers. They run the robotics that provide much of the physical labor. They need the constant technological updates to be effective, to be successful in their chosen occupations. We still think of colleges and universities as a place where you find 18, 19, 20-year-olds, 22-year-olds, 25-year-olds, and a few older. But in America's colleges and universities today, 1 out of every 3 students is 40 years old and older.